Yesterday, we talked about how the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, which I think is just remarkable. This new Joker movie broke the all-time October opening weekend box office record, beating out Venom. Venom was the previous record holder, and I think somewhere around $85 million opening weekend. Joker came out, smoked it with $93 million. Amazing. Well, as happens sometimes, remember the box office numbers that come out on Sunday are estimates. Now, the estimates are usually 99% accurate. But every once in a while, when Monday comes and we get the adjusted actual weekend numbers, sometimes that number will go up and down a tiny bit. Well, the Joker numbers actually went up a tiny bit from 93 to $96 million. Now, why is that significant? Well, there's a symbolic significance here because not only is it now the all-time opening weekend record holder for October beating Venom, but by being adjusted up to $96 million, it has now surpassed Justice League's opening weekend. Wrap your heads around that. Joker, with only one character, a known character, with only one known character, with no shared cinematic universe, with no Superman, Batman, Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Commissioner Gordon, you name it, Joker opened bigger than Justice League did. And I had a bunch of people messaging that to me the other day, yesterday, talking about that, saying, did you see it actually beat Justice League? And my first thought was probably like a lot of you guys, well, it's like, okay, who cares? But I do think there is some significance to this. And here's the significance I find in this. To me, as some people were looking at the fact that Joker just beat out Justice League for its opening weekend, some people believe that that is a testament, a further testament to just how disappointing Justice League was. That's what I see some people talking about. Some people are talking about how just yet again, another point made at what a disappointment Justice League was. A movie that should have opened to over $200 million, didn't even open to 100. A movie that should have flirted with $2 billion at the box office, barely crossed 600 million. And this is just another example of how flop that a Joker movie can come out, a solo Joker movie, and surpass it. And I can understand looking at it that way. I, however, personally disagree. I don't think that Joker making 96 million and surpassing Justice League is a further testament to the disappointment that Justice League was. And by the way, I like Justice League, but I don't believe that at all. What I believe is significant here is I believe that $96 million opening is more of a testament, not the only thing, just a big thing, that over the past 2 years, I believe Walter Hamada and the folks at DC have been working to rehabilitate and rebuild DC's reputation, DC Films' image, and DC's movie credibility with its audience. And I think that $96 million result of Joker is more of a testament of what they've been doing well for the last couple of years versus this is just an example of what they did poorly a few years ago. Because you think about this. I think part of the result of Justice League making 93 million was the fact that DC had put out a number of films in a row that, let's face it, was divisive. They put out a number of films in a row that a lot of the audience and a lot of the critics didn't like. Some of the critics, like this guy, did like them. A lot of the audience, like me, liked it. But there was a lot of audience that didn't like them and a lot of critics that didn't like them. And it just snowballed to the point that Justice League came out, a movie that should have been able to compete with Avengers, and it came in that low, relatively speaking. And I think that result of Justice League is a bit of a reflection of all the films that came before it, leading up to then the position that Justice League was in. That said, what has DC done the last couple of films and the last couple of years? Number one, They adopted a new philosophy. We're going to try to separate ourselves a little bit more from this shared cinematic universe. We are going to focus our movies on the individual characters. And that philosophy was very clearly shown in Aquaman. A movie I said would never hit 800. I always said Aquaman would be successful. I always said Aquaman would be profitable, but I said it won't hit 800 million. No way. It's not going to hit 800 million. Well, it passed 800 million, and then it passed $1 billion. And I thought it would never even hit 800 million, and look what it did. And that was a fun, enjoyable film. Is it the Citizen Kane of comic book movies? No, but I thought Aquaman was a fun, enjoyable film, and a lot of the audience thought so too. And they rewarded it by making it the first DC Cinematic Universe $1 billion film. Well, then what did they follow that up with? They followed it up with Shazam, which I think is the second best movie they've put out in the DCEU, only behind Man of Steel, which I love. But I thought Shazam was brilliant. I love Shazam. And again, it reinforced their philosophy, separate everything else out. Let's just focus on this one character. They did some fun stuff in the post-credits, but as far as the movie goes, focus on one character. That was Shazam. They focused on him, and they made a great film. Wasn't as profitable as Aquaman, nowhere near. But it was a wonderful, fantastic film. And so now, whereas Justice League had some negative momentum building up to it, and then it suffered, I feel like Justice League, or Joker, I should say, Joker has benefited not just from great storytellers and a great performance by Joaquin Phoenix, and all those things are primarily true, absolutely. But I think one of the other little advantages it had is that this is the first DC film in a while, now granted it's not DCEU, but it is DC, that actually got to come out with some positive momentum behind it. And I personally think the fact that Joker making $96 million is a positive thing, indicating that DC has been on a good roll lately. Not a negative thing to look back on Justice League and once again go, oh, look how Justice League going to perform. No, I think this is a positive sign. I really do. And I think this bodes well for DC moving forward. I'm super excited for Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 84. I'm not so excited for Birds of Prey, but hopefully that movie can come through too. So I think it's a little bit of a sign of some positive momentum. What do you guys think? And I want to know what you think about this. As a matter of fact, I made that the topic of today's question of the day. And our question of the day that I put up on my Twitter was simply this. I put this up just before the show started. And right now, about 1,600 of you guys have voted, and I asked the question. With Joker surpassing Justice League's opening, do you think that's more of an indicator of DC's gaining audience trust after the last couple of films, or another indicator of Justice League's underperformance? Now, you guys tend to disagree with me. 63% of you are saying you think it's another negative reflection of Justice League's performance, whereas 37% of you tend to agree with me that it's more of a sign that audience is starting to, gain back a little bit of their trust for DC films. Anyway, guys, I want to know what you guys think about this. Jump down to the comment section or go on over to my Twitter. It's simply @John Campea and register your vote. I'm going to keep that poll up for the rest of the day.